So I recently purchased the latest installment of MX vs ATV, which is MX vs ATV All Out, because I've been playing a lot of MX bikes, and the one thing that game is lacking, of course, is ATVs. So I thought, why not try out the latest MX vs ATV installment, because, the latest and greatest one has got to be the latest and greatest, right? I originally started playing MX vs ATV during the Unleashed period of time when that game came out. And more recently, I've played MX vs ATV Reflex, which isn't that bad of a game. And this game kind of tries to expand on MX vs ATV Reflex, but in my opinion, it kind of falls flat in a few areas. So first of all, graphically, this game looks great. The bikes look great, the tracks look great, it overall looks good. But the game plays like goddamn Mario Kart. The bikes and quads have absolutely insane maneuverability, both on land as well as in the air, which is kind of fun, but it really takes away from the experience in my opinion. On top of this, you have extremely funky mechanics like the super inconsistent power delivery of some vehicles. Sometimes they just rocket into acceleration, other times they accelerate like a cheap Chinese eBay quad and struggle to even hit 20 miles per hour. One other little quirk I noticed is that if you hit a certain wheelie point, no amount of forward leaning or rear brakes or anything will bring the front end down, which leads to some frustrating moments where a trick could have and would have been landed safely, but the quad bounced in a weird way that got the nose stuck up just enough to be past the point of no return. Now the vehicle tuning is downright idiotic. Whoever programmed that part of the game seriously needs to lose their job and get a terrible word for their name put out into the industry, because the tuning feature is just that absolutely fucked up. Like seriously, this guy needs to never work in the video game industry in any sort of facet ever again. First of all, nothing makes sense and is entirely arbitrary. There are 3 upgrade qualities for each item with no real indication of change. For instance, one set of tires with the same brand and model will have 3 different qualities despite having no cosmetic differences between the different quality levels. Yet the large variety of tires that you have to choose from all have identical stats to one another, which is just laughable. But back to the horrendous tuning thing. Everything is in a weird tuning range, and higher quality parts have a larger tuning range. Tuning different parts up or down affects positively or negatively different stats at a seemingly arbitrary rate and association. Tuning your brakes to be more powerful magically decreases the traction, whereas if you decrease your brake power, it magically increases the amount of traction that your tires are capable of producing. Likewise, if you tune the engine for more power, it makes your brakes weaker, not to be confused with it just being harder to stop something that's going faster, because you make your engine stronger, your bike is going to go faster, so it's going to be harder to stop. But no, that's not what we're talking about. Tuning the engine faster actually makes the brakes lose their overall power, and tuning the engine slower makes the brakes more powerful. It's just absolutely silly. Also, another thing I noticed is that a lot of the freestyle maps will start you out facing in a stupid direction. One of the freestyle tracks I was on had me facing a wall at the beginning, which forced me to do a 180-degree turn to hit any ramps or do any tricks, which is it just seems like an oversight. I don't know. Also, all the good content is locked behind DLC, a lot of which isn't even available on Steam at the quote-unquote request of the publisher. You are stuck with arbitrary maps and tracks that may or may not exist in real life, with the exception of a few Supercross tracks. There isn't even any Stadium Cross in the vanilla game. All the Stadium Cross maps are all DLC. All the good Nationals motocross tracks are all DLC. Washougal, Redbud, all of it. It's all DLC. All the name brand bikes, all DLC. You want to ride a Honda, you want to ride a Yamaha, you want to ride a Suzuki, you gotta pay extra for that. Sorry, bud. The computer AI in this game is just absolute gobshit, and the slingshotting is horrendous. There is both slingshotting and reverse slingshotting. If you do too terribly from the whole shot, the entire pack simultaneously slows down to an atrocious halt so that you can catch back up. Conversely, if you're absolutely shredding it and start to actually pull a decent position, the AI slingshots up an entire engine class like they're riding fucking leader bikes, and boom, you're in 16th place again. I really wanted to like this game and knew going into it that it wasn't going to be anything simulator level like MX bikes, which, again, I highly recommend that one, but Jesus, this installment seems like a total downgrade from literally every single pre-existing MX vs ATV game in every single way except for the graphics. Reflex did everything this game tries to do, but way better. I mostly got this game to satisfy my ATV fix, like I said, but the game is so far detached from reality that it ended up being an overall mostly disappointing experience for me. To me, it seems hilarious that this game is tagged as a simulator on the Steam Marketplace, as again, it seriously feels more akin to a Mario Kart game. Again, I came from playing MX bikes for a while, so my bar is set decently high right now as far as realism goes, but in my honest opinion, games like ATV Off-Road Fury, the original one for the PS2, and even the original MX vs. ATV play a lot better than this game does as far as overall vehicle handling and realism goes. Sure, the rider lean and deformation stuff is cool, but Reflex had that stuff and didn't feel quite as insanely arcadey, although it still does kinda miss the mark in my opinion. And at the end of the day, I would rather play one of the older titles that doesn't have the fancy rider lean physics and whatnot, but overall has better riding physics. Anyways, if you're looking for just like a quirky motocross and ATV game that you can just kind of mess around with and do absolutely insane flips and jumps and stunts, and has fairly easy racing, albeit with frustrating AI behaviors, this game isn't all that bad and is still fun for what it is. But if you're looking for anything even remotely realistic, or I guess satisfying to play in any type of way, you're definitely looking in the wrong place. If you're hoping this is going to be like the new and improved version of the MX vs. ATV franchise, well, it's kind of half of that. Again, the overall looks of the game and deformation physics have improved greatly, but that's literally it. In terms of general playability and gameplay, it's certainly not an upgrade or improved in terms of the MX vs. ATV series goes, and if you already own Reflex or any of the other games, I would pretty much suggest you just stick with that game. If you have one of the older MX vs. ATV games and you're looking for something a little bit more realistic, I would just go with Reflex. It's very similar, but it's not quite as arcadey, even though it still is arcadey. If you're in it mostly for the dirt bikes and you don't care about the ATVs and the other stuff, I would highly suggest MX Bikes, which is a great game with great realism, and all the mods are free instead of them being, gated behind paid DLC. So if you want to race some actual Hondas and Yamahas, you don't have to actually pay for it. Overall, I do not recommend this game one bit. I literally only got it because it was 70% off, and even still, it was arguably a waste considering I already own Reflex and Unleashed, and that those are, in my opinion, technically better games. Anyways, that's about it for my review of MX vs. ATV All Out. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, make sure to leave a like. It definitely helps me out. This is kind of a new format of video for me, so let me know how you feel about it. I might try to make more of these review type videos in the future, depending on how this one goes. But anyways, make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you want to stay tuned for any of that stuff, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.